In the past 40 years, we have not seen a technology that has been so disruptive as our approach to data and how we deal with data in our environments today. And on the screen here, we're going to walk through a paper. I'm going to give you a link inside of the YouTube description so you can download this paper and read it. It's about a 15-minute read, but we're really evolving in the way we look at data. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of those high-level points, and then you can drill into a little more details with the document. So stay tuned. So illustrated here on the screen, you have, for some of you that may not recognize this, this is a library card catalog, and this is the way we used to look up information. Now today, of course, information is available right at our fingertips, and the difference between then and today is that we can make substantial decisions with our data as we move into this new era that we're going into, which is data. So what does that mean from a data perspective? Well, the reality is that data is literally everywhere. And it grows, according to most experts, it grows at a pace of doubling every year. So we're doubling our data inside of our environments and accessibility to that data. But if we don't understand how to manage that data, if we don't understand how to build the right infrastructure to ingest that information, then the more data that becomes available to us becomes less opportunist, or less of an opportunity, I guess would be a better way to put it, for us to use and leverage within our own environments. And if you cannot leverage data, you will not be competitive in the future. Why? Because everybody around you is leveraging data. And so we have to make sure that we build an infrastructure that is definitely focused on data itself. How do we deal within the environment of data itself? The strategy has changed. We are no longer looking for the data that's associated with an application or a database within our environment. Those silos of information are yesterday. We need to be able to see data in a flat organization, because the reality is that most of us have data all over the place. In fact, with large organizations, it could represent hundreds of data sources that are quote unquote official data sources, and thousands of data sources that are sitting on people's desktops in the form of a spreadsheet or a local database or a small application that they've acquired over the years. This has been the way that we have done business for decades, at least 40 years. And what we've learned from this experience is that data is endless, first of all. Second, it scares us to death. We do not want to get rid of data because it's through that data that we have all of our knowledge. But the reality is, and think about this, when was the last time you opened up a document from 3 years ago or even 3 months ago? Now, the reality is that we just don't do that. Most people have that information stored somewhere within a corporate or a government environment, and they just simply don't access it. Why? Because accessing that data requires us to reprocess the information. And the questions and the answers that we provided 3 years ago that developed that document are now no longer relevant to the questions that we have today. But because we didn't know what the question was then, because the situation and kind of our environment has changed over 3 years, now our questions are different. Perhaps we're more educated, perhaps we just understand what's going on a little bit better. So now that information, although interesting and may have 10% value in it, it no longer really is relevant to what we're trying to do. In fact, this video and this document written here will probably not be relevant in the next 3 years because we have changed. We're a lot like a fish out of water when it comes to understanding what our data is and how we can use it to our advantage. And one of the primary challenges to this is that we see our data in compartments, in these nicely secured safes that we have, and they're all locked down and in this great safe, and we need a special combination or a security access in order to get into that safe where that data is. That type of concept is not going to work in the world tomorrow, because just like our example of the document written 3 years ago still has 10% of data value in it, we don't want to spend 90% of our time getting to that 10%. So we have to be able to flatten that environment, to be able to say data is there, but we need to see it and we need to view it differently. And what is that view that we have of our data? Well, the document, so on this page, we talk a lot about some of those strategies, right? Transparency, breaking away from application constraints, the possibility and power of infinite combinations of information, and that's really leveraging things like natural language and our ability to just simply ask a question and have it go out to thousands of data sources to try to find that answer. And then, of course, the impact of that transparent and limitless data. And of course, on every page, you have a call to action that talks about what are some of the next steps that you can take to evolve your environment. Finally here, we use an example. Now, this could be an example from any organization or government agency. Data is data, and it's pretty much the same everywhere. But the use case changes. Now, this use case happens to focus on a logistics company, and we'll just use Amazon in this example because everybody knows about that company. So being able to access all of this information, we go into kind of some of the details on what it is that Amazon might need data for. For example, weather conditions or traffic conditions, behavioral purchasing habits, and returns, and all types of things that impact their business. Those are all data oriented, and how we deal with that data will define our success as an organization. So again, we have a call to action here to kind of look over what it is that we're doing and strategically think about the way we can deal with data in the future.